Hey everybody, I wanted to talk a little bit about intermittent fasting. And I wish I had known about intermittent fasting when I was really dropping all of my weight. Intermittent fasting is one of those amazing tools that has been around since the dawn of man. And, we have American society, actually, society in general, has this fear of hunger. And so when you say the word fast, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, they're thinking of a 3-day water fast or a 10-day water fast, usually for spiritual purposes or trying to do a body cleanse, those things. They don't think of it as actually putting that into practice in their daily lives to not only achieve their perfect body weight, but also to achieve incredible health benefits. Now, we were always intermittent eaters. And when I say that, your ancestors, your predecessors always ate intermittently. There was never, 7-Elevens, grocery stores, refrigeration, freezers, those kind of things. Those have only really shown up in the last 100 years if you stop and you think about it. Where I'm from in Montana, I always use this analogy. 100 years ago, where would you find a banana in Montana? We didn't have FedEx that brought up, loads of banana from South America. We had train systems, but the chances are that they weren't really bundling bananas out in Florida and bringing them all the way up to Montana to sell. And where would they sell them and how would they last? Those kind of things. We just didn't have the storage systems for those. And yet you can walk to the grocery store and you can buy a bunch of bananas and eat them. The same thing goes for all of your processed foods. So say you're a cowboy out on the range and, you're feeling a little peckish. You hadn't eaten for a while. And what do? Oh, I'm going to run into the 7-Eleven while I'm herding cows up from Texas to Montana. And I'm going to go get me a big old giant bag of Doritos and a half rack of beer. It just didn't happen. So you have to understand that our ancestors were intermittent eaters to begin with. It is actually a natural adaptive way that our bodies love to do. So in the past, you didn't have grocery stores, so you just couldn't go buy your food and you had no way of storing food. So if you got a deer or an elk, or if you butchered a cow or your pig or whatever, you had to either salt it or jerk it to make it last. So not only that, you had to do the work of all of that, cutting that animal up and then putting it into that kind of a storage thing. So you're going to be pretty judicious with that because you're not sure, not sure if I'm going to have a deer or an elk in the next couple of weeks. So you're going to eat that sparingly. The next thing is breads. They really didn't have a lot of bread. You had to farm that wheat or that barley or whatever grain you were eating, and these were manual physical labor. We didn't have the machines that we have now to do the factory farming. So if something didn't destroy your crop and you were lucky enough to have grain storage, it was a whole grain. It wasn't processed, it wasn't bleached, it wasn't GMO'd. It didn't have any of those things. And not only that, it was a whole grain, and then you had to grind the little buggers and then make your bread. So you really weren't eating a lot of processed carbohydrates. So if you were lucky enough to have biscuits or bread, that was huge back in those days. So pretty much our ancestors were eating roots, naturally found roots or root crops, because those are pretty easy to store in a cold cellar or anything like that. They were eating meats and they were eating fats. If you were lucky enough to have a cow where you could actually get milk and make butter, you could have that kind of thing. But you know what? A cow's only freshened for a couple of months out of the year. A cow has to be bred, have a calf, and then it produces milk. It doesn't produce milk year round like we do now with all of our factory farming. We actually give cows massive amounts of hormones to produce more milk than they've ever produced, ever. A calf wouldn't be able to drink that much milk. So a normal cow on the range with a calf would produce maybe five gallons of milk. So you would milk the cow, you'd get a gallon or two, and then where are you going to store that? Number two, the rest goes to the calf, because that calf has to have food in order to survive. So you begin to see that we did not have the food sources. We were intermittent eaters. So our bodies were actually set up to eat intermittently. We might have, if we were lucky, we might have one meal. And then we might not eat for a couple of days. And then maybe the harvest comes and we have actual food, and so we actually have a feast. Or somebody got into a herd of buffalo and they were actually able to kill several buffalo. You feast on that. You feast on all of the organs in the buffalo. They didn't waste the food like we do now. And then you'd have those feast days. So you are intermittently eating and then feasting, intermittently eating and feasting. So it was eat, stop, eat, or eat, fast, no food, no food, no food, no food, eat maybe something little, no food, no food, no food, feast. So that is really how our bodies were set up. It's very natural. It's very healthy. The current research is phenomenal. You'll want to check out some of the things that I posted on our Facebook group and on my business page for understanding what fasting can do. If you would like more information and learn how to become an intermittent faster, you know what? Just DM me or text me or whatever, and I'd be happy to get you started on the right pathway. I do intermittent fasting all the time. I do pretty intense intermittent fasting when I want to really drop, those extra pounds. I've recently been doing 3 days where I've been doing OMAD, which is one meal a day. So I pretty much have a 23-to-1 eating window. So I'm fasting for 23 hours. I'm eating for 1 hour. That is my window. So I have that one meal during the day. I'll do that for 3 days, and then I'll have a refeed day. So that would be my feast, where I do that. Drop weight really, really fast. It's a little difficult to get started if you're not used to fasting. So I don't usually recommend that as being, your initial introduction to fasting. Because people are very afraid of hunger, and you don't have to be afraid of hunger. Hunger is your best friend. And you will find is that you continue to pass up hunger, you really enjoy that feeling. And that feeling isn't that insatiable emotional hunger where you're like, I'm rummaging through everything. I got to eat something, trying to fill that void inside. It's actually a very pleasurable feeling when you feel that. So I recommend a 16-to-8 fasting window. So that would be 16 hours of fasting and an 8-hour eat window. So usually you can get in about 2 meals in that 8-hour fasting window. Now that is, or 8-hour eat window. But that doesn't mean that you binge the entire 8 hours. You're actually only eating, a couple of small meals. And what you'll find is the weight will just drop off effortlessly. You'll feel better. Your skin looks better. Your hair looks better. Your immune system gets pumped up. You end up with a lot of major, major benefits when you start intermittent fasting. Not only that, you get a real handle on your hunger. And you get a real sense of, hey, you know what? Food really isn't that important. You end up having so much more productivity. And not only that, it's cheaper. You're not spending all that money on lattes and McDonald's and the junk food at Walmart, and then the pizzas and all of that kind of stuff. People are always like, oh, keto is so expensive, or intermittent fasting sounds like it's really dreadful. If you haven't tried it and receive the benefits from it, don't knock it until you do it. All right. So if you have any other questions, just give me a call, or you can DM me for more information. I'd be happy to share that with you. All right. That's my thoughts on intermittent fasting. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.